And we are back on Open Line. We are talking with attorney Clint Kelly. We are talking about medical malpractice throughout the hour. You know, one of the things that when we talk about medical malpractice that I was looking through is as well as the Kelly firm, these are some of the cases that you guys have successfully worked on. And some of the causes: wrongful death, injuries that resulted in substantial medical expenses, loss of a limb due to medical mistake, paralysis caused by medical error, injuries that prevented the patient from returning to work. So there's a long list of causes, events, and that sort of thing that you guys have worked on. And another thing that I think is really important too when someone is looking for answers in this is to go with someone who has the experience and has the basically the knowledge, which is exactly what you guys have. So there's not a lot of firms that specialize in this.
That's correct. I'm a medical malpractice specialist. I'm actually board certified by the American Board of Professional Liability Attorneys, and in order to become specialized, I had to have a certain amount of jury trials, medical malpractice jury trials, had to pass a written exam and an oral exam, and then get, in essence, 3 referrals from lawyers who do this for a living. And it's a very small community of lawyers who actually do this for a living because of the amount of skill and experience and the money that's required. You have to have access to a certain amount of money to be able to finance these cases, because the patients, they can't do it on their own. We have to do it for them. Chuck, one thing I wanted to add, going back to Carla's question.
Yeah.
To do research, one thing that you could do, if Carla's still watching or anybody else, you can pick 2 or 3 hospitals, let's just say in the Nashville area.
Because for people just tuning in, Carl's question was about...
She wanted to know, how do I find out which hospital's better? There's one thing that you can do. If you want to find out or get some idea of how good a hospital is or bad, look and see how many times they've been sued. You can go to the county clerk's office, Davidson County Clerk's office, and say, I want to print out of how many times, let's just pick one, Skyline Medical Center or St. Thomas or Vanderbilt, and give me a listing in every case in which they are a party, either plaintiff or defendant, and look for the number of times that hospital's been sued within the relevant time period, 2 years, 5 years, and then, you know, that's some information you might want to know.
Absolutely. And as we talk about medical malpractice, I mean, it's one of those things where maybe you've been injured by medical negligence through a doctor's office, through a hospital, something happened to you, it wasn't right. That's what we want to hear from this evening. Questions, comments, 737-7587 is the number to call. One thing, too, I think, is the statute of limitations, and some people are not aware of that, or probably more people than you think are not aware of that. They're
not, and you know, like I said, it's 1 year from the date that you discover your injury. Not necessarily when the injury occurred, but when you actually discover it, because sometimes the injury may occur and you don't know about it. Like, say, for example, an organ was removed, the wrong organ, and you didn't know about it until, you know, 2 or 3 months afterwards, or a foreign object is left in your body. But it is so important to go ahead and pick up the phone and call, because I've had patients who've waited too long thinking, well, we'll just get better. The doctor says, let's wait 12 months and see how things go, and then after the 12th month, the patient doesn't get better and decides they need to go to a lawyer, and they've waited too long. Or you may have one spouse talking to another spouse saying, I don't know if we should go to a lawyer, that might cost too much or be too difficult. Like I said, it doesn't cost the patient anything. You know, all the expenses are advanced by me, and the patient doesn't pay anything unless there's a recovery. So the bottom line is, particularly in this world where you can get online quickly or pick up a phone easily, just do it.
Right. Costs nothing. So absolutely, that's what you need to do. And we will be showing that number that you can call the Kelly firm and ask a question if you do have one. Right now, we're going back to the lines. Larry's on the line with us. Larry, good evening. And do you have a question or a comment for attorney Clint Kelly?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear us?
This is Larry.
Yeah, Larry, do you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I do, about my hospital stay last month. I haven't talked to any attorneys because I hadn't really had the retainer money. But my stay, I don't even know if this, I don't know what avenue you'd go down with it, if it's harassment or malpractice. But I had a nurse that has helped me to the bathroom and stuff there where I broke my back. And I had one of them make a pass at me.
Wow.
And yeah, believe it or not. Yeah, and you wouldn't believe it if you saw me, if you know what I'm saying. But come to find out, it's wrecked my marriage and my family. And
you still there, Larry?
Well, how do I pursue this?
Okay. First of all,
I mean, she's done filed for divorce and everything.
all right. I had a case similar to this. By the way, Larry, let me say this again. You don't need retainer money to consult with me or a medical malpractice lawyer. Let me say that again. You don't need money. This is a free consultation. The patient pays nothing unless there's a recovery. I want to make sure everybody understands that. But with that said, I had a case a couple of years ago where a male nurse fondled a female patient in the emergency room when she was under the influence of morphine. She really didn't even know about it until someone who was a nurse had called her anonymously to tell her about it. That's not medical malpractice. That is sexual assault. And if, in this case with Larry, if it's a pass, the question becomes, was there some type of touching or something else that would constitute a battery? You know, people can make passes all the time. There's nothing illegal about that. But in the healthcare context, the question is, does the healthcare provider touch the patient inappropriately? You know, and particularly in a sexual area where it's not necessary. And so, Larry, I don't know what to tell you about the impending divorce that you're facing and it wrecking your life, because I don't know enough about what happened. But I do want you to call my office in the morning, ask to speak to Nurse Kathy, and just tell her what happened. I doubt this is a case, but what happened to you is just absolutely inappropriate. I want to take a look at it before I make a judgment.
Okay, and again, that number, Clint, that they can call, that's on our screen.
Yes, 615-824-3703, and the call is free.
Very important. So make sure, again, Larry, thank you for your call this evening, and do make that call in the morning. As Clint said, that call is free. I think it's amazing how many people think that it's going to cost just to have that consultation.
Yeah, and I understand that, because anytime you go to a criminal defense lawyer or a business lawyer, that is always the customary thing, is to pay the lawyer, you know, some type of retainer money. But in my business, I get people coming in who are usually devastated, who've been involved in some type of catastrophe or can't go back to work. These people can't afford to pay for their lawsuit, and these cases are so expensive that the only alternative is to have me or someone like me advance the cost so that that patient gets their day in court.
Right. And I think it's so important too, because this is what you guys specialize in. I'm not saying this just because you're sitting next to me, but obviously I went through a situation recently, and one of the biggest problems was I didn't have an expert when I needed an expert, and I learned the hard way. Someone recommends someone, but you need to know, does that person have the expertise in that field, in that area, which is exactly what you guys have. So, you know, there's many different forms of medical negligence as we look through this. Everything from a surgical mistake, birth trauma, anesthetic error, prescription mix-up, hospital mistake, nursing negligence, misdiagnosis of a medical condition. So there's a number of areas that people can be affected by.
And a disturbing trend that I'm seeing, Chuck, are the number of what we call medical battery cases. Those are cases where the doctor has operated on the wrong body part or has operated on the wrong patient. Used to be, I would see one of those cases once every 5 years. I've seen 5 of them within the last 2 years. And I've talked to Nick about this on Morning Line. My opinion is, and it's simply my opinion, that because the number of patients have gone up and doctors are trying to do more work, more surgeries in a limited period of time, these mistakes are happening, and it's going to be a problem.
Do you see that trending upward?
I don't see it stopping, let's put it that way. And until there are better safeguards or people following those safeguards to make sure you're operating on the right patient and the right body part, these things are going to continue.
Do you find too, sometimes when people, they don't call, and maybe it's not just because of the timing, but because they think they don't even have a case, or they don't think that they stand a chance against the doctors, they don't think they have a chance against the big hospitals, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's all those reasons, Chuck. I mean, I've had them not call me because they believe that if they come see me, they won't get medical care anymore, which is absolutely false. I mean, there's no truth to that at all, but that's what they think. Some people are just uncomfortable seeing a lawyer and telling the story and trying to get their day in court because they don't think they have a chance, and they do. They absolutely. I mean, that's my job, is to get them their day in court and make sure that they have a chance. And so, again, it doesn't cost you anything, and it may make the difference between getting compensation and having some kind of decent life, or having to live with a terrible disability and just being broken.
And for people out watching right now, and they're wondering if, you know, something that's happened to them, if it is a case, again, if you're just tuning in, the main thing that we urge you to do is just call the Kelly firm in the morning, and they can let you know. It doesn't cost anything. The thing, too, I think when people, whether it's the friend, whether it's a family member, what do you find is one of their fears outside of just the hospital and the doctors? Do they fear retribution being from other friends and family members, that sort of thing, just for bringing the question up?
They do. Some people in rural areas simply believe it's wrong or unchristian to sue their doctor or their lawyer, whereas, you know, there were lawsuits back in Moses' times. But it's just something that's ingrained in some rural folks. And there's some people that go and try to get government benefits and think if they go sue a doctor or a hospital for the negligence that somehow they'll screw up their government benefits. And Chuck, I personally believe that if you are the victim of negligence from a doctor or hospital, it's not the government's responsibility. It's not our responsibility, mine and yours, to take care of that person. It's the wrongdoer's responsibility. I think that's a conservative principle that should be honored. And so, you know, we all grew up with the concept, if you break it, you pay for it. And so I think more and more people should take that to heart and call a lawyer and try to get help in that situation. Don't be concerned with what your relative or someone else may think of you, because you got to do what you got to do to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. And this is a great way, if you do have a question, if you're sitting at home wondering that very thing this evening, give us a call, 737-7587. We'll get to as many calls as we can during the hour. We are going to take a short break. If you're just tuning in, we are talking about medical malpractice. We'll continue with Open Line right after this.